Toxic people. It's a recurring theme. It's so hard. It's so hard because even when we know it in our minds, there's something in us that just reacts and responds, even if we don't speak it out loud. That reaction happens inside. And so the toxicity, it's not just that that person is toxic out there. It's that toxicity is contagious. So here's how to deal with it. First of all, as we were speaking before, yeah, it is important to understand that you are in this situation for a reason. Most of us, when we're with people like that, all we can think of is, oh my God, how can I get the hell out of here? You know, how can you get this person away from me? That's where most of our mind energy goes. And it's really important to remember that there is a reason I am in this situation. There is something I am supposed to learn in this situation. There is a layer of the onion of myself that is supposed to be peeled back. Petals of the flower of myself that are supposed to open. I mean, whatever analogy works for you. But there is a reason that I'm here. And the ultimate goal is not just how can I get out as quickly as possible. So the first step is to sink within, really to get to our own core, our own source, our own center. That's not the reactiveness on the surface. You know, if you look at the ocean, it's like the waves are on the surface. The surface is what gets impacted by high tide, low tide, full moon, whatnot. But the depth of the ocean stays the same, unaffected. And so it's important to be able to sink down and connect with that depth. Otherwise, you spend your life, you know, like a ping pong ball, kind of being bounced around from toxic person to toxic person to toxic situation, because there are a lot of them. And, you know, you may feel okay when you're with good people and not okay when you're with these people, but the life then literally just becomes like, you know, ping pong ball or a ball in a pinball machine even that just gets, you know, somebody else pulls and lets it go, and where it ends up, who knows. And that's what happens when how I feel is dependent upon what you're doing. So in all of these circumstances, the ultimate highest lesson for all of us is, how can the reins of my life be in my hands? And before I go on about, you know, how to deal with the situations, it's important to realize, even you use the word toxic, poison. What we know historically and even currently, there's all kinds of scientific research actually. I mean, the Indian devotional history gives it to us as well. We have stories of, you know, people like Mirabai, for example, who were given a bowl full of poison. But into the poison she sees nectar. Takes Krishna's name, drinks it, it becomes nectar. Okay, so that's devotional. But there's actually also a whole body of scientific research these days about religious communities in America who literally take strychnine, which is a lethal poison, but they do it in a religious environment, in a religious ceremony. And amazingly, they're unaffected by it. Now, this is obviously a don't try this at home example. Nobody should go and say, but Sadhviji said, that if I just believe enough. I don't know the mechanism by which it works exactly, but what we know is it does happen. We know there is a mechanism whereby the state that the mind is in is absolutely able to render physical substances that chemically, molecularly are lethal, harmless. People walk on fire, hot coals, they don't get burned. Also in religious environments, again, don't try this at home. We know this. And again, this is something that science is now studying, so it's not just stories told in religious communities. And I bring that up because when we're in the environment of people who are toxic, it's very easy for us to really believe that the problem is entirely that person. And in some cases it may be. But that there is no other way of feeling, there's no other way of reacting, there's no other way of responding in that person's presence other than to feel miserable. That it would be impossible to be in that person's presence and not be troubled by it. And we take that really as just fact. This person is horrible. This person is toxic. It is a fact of that person. I need to just get out or remove that person. And what I love about the science of people literally drinking poison is that if strychnine isn't toxic, if somehow the power of our mind, and these are not, from the studies I've read, these are not like, super mystical, trained religious people. It's not like the Tibetan monks who, dry wet towels on their shoulders in the mountains and generate enough heat that they actually dry the towels. It's regular people. And what that means is that there actually is a power in the mind that is so strong that it can even render hot coals something that doesn't burn us, fire something that doesn't burn us, poison something that doesn't kill us. Which means it's got to be strong enough to render a toxic person innocuous in our presence. You may not be able to change the person, but at least to render them inert, you could say, in our presence. There's a beautiful quotation from the Buddha that says something like, become a river of compassion so that the flames of discord are automatically extinguished when they come near you. So it's not about going out to extinguish other people's flames. It's about becoming this river such that the flames are automatically extinguished. And that's the goal. Now, that's all the highest vision for you to hold of what's possible. Awareness of what's possible. But I also want to take a moment and just look at what most of our day-to-day practical, realistic situations look like. And yeah, there really are times where there are people who, for whatever karmic package reason they're going through, are toxic. And are people who literally, it would be like if I had tuberculosis and I were coughing and coughing and coughing and coughing. I might not mean badly. I might be a good person at heart. You could still feel compassion for me in your heart. But being physically near me would actually be putting your life at a risk. And extricating yourself from the situation to prevent coming down with tuberculosis should not be seen as a sign of weakness. You shouldn't feel like, God, if I just were spiritual enough, if I just were compassionate enough, I would be able to stay there with her and somehow be immune to the tuberculosis. Well, maybe you are. If I were in a room of 50 people, okay, probably not all 50 of them would come down with TB, but a large number of them would. The question is that a risk you want to take? So if you have to extricate yourself from a situation with a particular person, don't feel badly about yourself about it. Recognize it as a way of having to take care of yourself. Obviously, in an ideal world, the inner power is so strong within you that that person can be all the poison they want to be, but it doesn't actually impact you. And yeah, that is the highest level to get to. And this is where we have scientifically, historically, scripturally, spiritually, these examples given to us. Why? To remind us the power of ourself. That we're not just victims of that which we drink, that which people cough on us, that which, is in the energy around us. There's also power within us that can transform that. Power within us. So call upon that power as much as you can. But if you really feel that there's nothing you can do, and it's just harming you, then you need to extricate yourself from the situation and protect yourself. But what I would do before I did that was I would, especially since when you began the question, you said it was a close family member. If this were just, somebody who took their coffee at the same Starbucks you do, I would say, you know what, don't worry about it. Just sit at a different table, I mean, sure, if you've got lots of extra time and energy on your plate, you might want to investigate further. But if not, just drink your coffee someplace else. But if this is somebody in the house or someone you have to interact with on a regular basis, see whether you could do a temporary removal of yourself into somewhere that helped you develop an inner practice that were strong enough to be able to go back and neutralize that toxicity. And obviously not with saying, oh my God, you are so hideous, I've got to go now do a whole 10-day of Vipassana retreat, to settle myself so I can come back and deal with you. Not like that. But just so that we know, I'm going to increase my own Shakti. I'm going to increase my own ability to generate such healing that it neutralizes all of that toxicity. And nothing's static. So if it's a person who's toxic, they're continuing to change, as we all are. They may seem to you like they're not changing, but I guarantee they're changing. Now, they could be getting worse. It's also a possibility. Not everything gets better with time. But they're definitely changing. And who you are and how you are is also playing a role in them. The same way how they are plays a role in how you feel. In the same way how you are plays a role in how they feel. And so we're impacting each other. So see whether you can impact in such a way that it neutralizes the toxins. And if not, and you've really tried everything, the Bhagavad Gita gives us the perfect example of this. Yes, there are times when, literally or metaphorically, there has to be a war. But only after you've tried everything else.